And then I pause and I go, I guess also you could send me for Aladdin since I'm Middle Eastern, like whatever.
Yeah.
And he laughs and he goes, Aladdin? And he looks me up and down and goes, well, I don't know how to tell you that, honey, but you're not exactly harem material. And me, I'm like,
Oh. How you doing? How you feel about coffee?
I am so ready. This is my first cup of the day.
Woo! Treated and how the cheers.
I may have made it a little bit.
Welcome back to Stupid Coffee, guys. Today we have a special guest. Today is Lama. I don't know your last name actually.
El Homaïssi.
How do you say it again?
El Homaïssi.
El Homaïssi.
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, awesome.
You said it perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay.
You are a actor.
Actor, singer, writer, yes.
Yes. Creative.
Yes.
Creative person.
Just creative person.
But you write a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
And I come from a background in film and TV, and then I switched over to theater, so in different types of mediums.
So you have anything like film that you do? You do TV stuff or film or?
So that's kind of a part of my former life. I still like to be involved in it, but I did my undergrad in filmmaking, and then I ended up working in TV and film for about 45 years in Lebanon.
Oh, wow.
Before coming here to pursue my master's in musical theater, and then finding myself more in theater and music. Always incorporating a little bit of the things I've learned, like doing film and TV, whether that's script writing or using visuals and things like that. But yeah, so
Nice.
Film and TV is my background, currently on theater and music.
Awesome.
I'm in that chapter of my life now.
That's great. And is there any like TV stuff out there in the world that you still have?
So the sort of like the prominent productions that I've worked on in Lebanon are The Voice Kids, which is like a junior format of the show.
Oh wow.
So You Think You Can Dance, a show called The Winner Is.
Oh wow. So this is a lot of a lot of reality TV shows.
A lot of like talent competitions
Got it.
that are adapted like to the Middle Eastern region.
Oh wow. And you're in
And
there.
then some
You're hosting and
originals.
stuff.
No. I was part of the writing team. So I
Oh,
was
the writing
Yeah,
team.
part
Got
of the
it,
writing
got it.
team. So I know that that's interesting to people when they say like, oh, reality TV writing, like where's the writing?
Yeah.
First of all, it's called scripted reality.
Yeah. Oh, that's
because you
fair.
do script a little bit
Yeah.
of it. Not in that like you're faking what's happening, but you've definitely called these contestants before. You know sort of like what their story is. You're gonna know that like you're gonna put these people in one episode because you're gonna go from like this really touching story to like a buzzy like funny person or
Yeah.
like and there's a certain balance and a certain like level of talent. Like you can't have all good people in one episode and then all people who are unpredictable.
For sure,
you don't
for
know
sure.
how they're gonna do. So there's a bit of
Yeah.
like writing to it, and then the other like the main writing part is like you're writing formats, which are the ideas for these TV shows. Because not all of them are talent competitions. Like I've written a bunch that are like talk shows or like lifestyle, like how they put people on a farm and all types of shows. But there's a catalog. So I worked under two companies. Sony Pictures Television Arabia was one of them. The other one was Talpa, which is a Dutch company which invented The Voice. Actually,
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's not. A lot of people think it's an American show, but so many of these talent competitions are actually rooted like in terms of rights and like original concept in this Dutch company, Endemol or Talpa. And so when I would write, like, I was part of the Lebanese team, so we'd work on these like the executive production aspect of The Voice and these things, and sometimes casting and whatnot. And then in dormant times when we're not like in production or like any time that we would have, we would like sit and just try to come up with a number of shows and pitch them to each other around a table, and then eventually pitch them to the team in
Oh, wow.
In the Netherlands. And
Yeah.
then if some of them have made it into the catalog,
sure.
and yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I wrote a show, one of my colleagues back there called Ana Zahra Jr., which was a show for girls between the age of 8 and 14.
Oh wow, clip to that.
رجعنا واحنا كلنا متشوقين نلاقيكم مرة ثانية.
أنا زهرة جونيور معاكم في موسم تاني.
كل المواضيع اللي بتهمنا إحنا البنات رح نحكي فيها.
الموضة، الجمال، الصحة.
It won awards. Yay. It was really surreal. It was kind of like the show that, I mean, we wrote from scratch. We were really just given the title and that they wanted it for this age group. And so me and my coworker put our heads together and really wanted it to be feminist, but also it was being shown to areas of the Gulf and Saudi Arabia, like Emirates, a lot of, and not to say that there are so many strong and badass women there, and feminists, but we kind of had to be sometimes subtle because some of feminist beliefs can clash with certain other beliefs, and so we were definitely trying to reinforce this audience, and the hosts were also around those ages. They're preteens hosting the show, trying to reinforce them and make them encounter all these like incredible women that have achieved so much that come from that area of the world. So just by example, by showing them the potential. So that show won some awards. It was really surreal because literally like the set came from my Pinterest, like pinning certain things and colors that I like together and sending them over. And so that was, I think, the most remarkable moment for me in terms of stepping into a whole studio of something I'd like conceived with myself and a friend,
And you created that thing just from your...
And I never really, I always thought I would be writing fiction. Like, I loved Breaking Bad at the time, when I went into script writing. I really wanted to work on dramas and series.
We'll get into that in a second. One of our segments called What's Brewing.
Oh, What's Brewing?
Yeah.
Tagoi.
How do you think about this coffee?
I really like it.
Yeah.
I really like it. Let me see if I
Notes
can use
of like chocolatey, I know, yeah. Do you drink it black back home or no? When you
the Arabic coffee, I usually drink it black.
Pretty black, right? Yeah.
I work at this Lebanese restaurant and we serve it there, and so many times people will be like there's something wrong with it. It had this much of like thick stuff, and I'm like,
slur.
That's a part of it. It's at the bottom. You have to sip it slowly and like definitely never and then we have, I don't know if you know this, maybe you do it in Malaysia, but we have like the fortune telling tradition where you put it upside, and so like the cardamom and slur that you're talking about. So you put it upside down and you're just like chatting like we are, and you pick it up eventually and you read each other's fortune.
Interesting.
But you have to like put your thumb in the center and mark it. And
careful, there's a little poo-poo.
I saw that. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
That was a close one. But yeah.
I'm kidding.
And then you read each other's fortune.
Okay, wow. Can you read your fortune? No, I guess we don't have slur.
We can't do it with this one, but we can definitely do that.
Can we do it in this I'm kidding. What is my fortune now, huh? That's what I thought.
Self-explanatory.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Beirut, Lebanon.
Okay.
And then I moved here 7 years ago, 6 years ago. In 2017, basically, I moved here. So I was...
We don't have to disclose that.
We don't have to say that?
No.
Okay, don't tell the agents that I'm old.
No. Nobody will know.
Nobody will know. Nobody has to know.
So you just turned 22. Living in New York.
I born and raised in Beirut, Lebanon my whole life until 2017, which is when I came here to get my master's in musical theater. Yeah.
And when did you start being creative?
So, it's my favorite fact to tell people. My dad is a mime. And
You're being serious?
I'm being very serious. My
Whoa, that's dope. Holy shit.
my dad is
That's pretty awesome.
well, yeah, it's really cool. He's an actor, director, writer. Like he's done it all. But his like area of specialty and where he's like innovated a lot in theater is mine. His like the I grew up like to a lot of him writing. Like he had children's musicals, mime shows that are very different than I think what people are used to imagining, like with a single mime actor either on the street or on the stage. He definitely like took it farther. He does a lot of miming with hands. He does ensemble mime.
Wow.
And it's very
Specialist.
experimental. Yeah, very experimental about it. And then
Yeah.
like things that I saw when I was growing up, I like asked him when I was 20, like, what was that about, by the way? And he's like, oh, it was about the Gulf War. And I'm like, what? You know, like completely like you would watch the scene and you would think it's like about a man getting a baby from the ceiling, and you know, things that are very like daily motion activities and funny like back and forth with all these different characters, and then you wouldn't like guess, but a lot of it and a lot of the inspiration just comes from things he has to say about the state of the world. I never thought it was that political, but so I come from an artistic family because my dad, every time he worked on those shows, my mom, who is a fine artist, like painter and teacher as well, they're both teachers too. She would do the posters for him, puppets. If
So
there's, like,
wait, so your mom is also a
artist as well.
She what does she specialize in?
Painting
Painting, okay.
and fashion.
Yeah. Oh wow, fashion. So
Yeah.
that's why you're saying it helps. Oh, perfect duo.
Perfect duo, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she would help him with his work, and then when I got older, I really got into theater and special effects makeup as well as stage makeup. So I started painting his face and painting the
nice.
actors' faces. So that was really
What age is
special.
this?
I would say 21. No, it's between 17 and like 17 and 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then my brother and I, like, whenever we weren't having, like, you know, playing such a vital role, like when I was younger, we would just like help with ushering or tickets or just goof around and
Wow.
be the one kid who got to like take the special balloon home or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so they were very encouraging in the house of like any creativity. I feel like it almost feels like if I wasn't creative, they'd be offended and they'd like shun me out. I would say always, because I come from a very artistic family, like with my dad being a mime, my mom being a painter and an artist, and
So
both of them
awesome.
being, very supportive. I started, I think the first thing that I started doing is drawing a lot. Like I sketch a lot, I love to do it. But I think I also very much wanted to like dance and perform and sing.
Uh-huh.
And that became the primary thing. And then when I was a teen, I really got into a lot of singing. I was like singing in rock bands and also really got into film. Like lots of Jim Jarmusch, like David Lynch, like very, very, so many feelings. I had so many feelings. And I loved the darkest of things. And I think I was also going through a lot and felt like I didn't want to be on stage. I didn't want to be the one performing. I wanted to sort of go behind the scenes and do more writing. And so I went that way. And I think I also just, you know, because my father is a drama professor at the Lebanese University, I didn't want to get into any theater program and have anyone say, oh, she got in because of her dad. Because my dad is known for what he does. He's pretty well known in Lebanon.
You want to be a Nepo baby.
So I was like, no Nepo baby for me. I'm going to apply to a writing program, like a directing program, film, TV. And I got in and I just needed to feel like I was also carving out my own path, because not that I don't want to, I think the world of my father. I just also feel it's very daunting to feel like you want to live up to
living in the
his
shadow
success.
too.
I feel like.
So you have a very interesting part here, because not a lot of artists that I interview have like a dual situation where you grew up in one place and then you're here now. So education-wise, you came out here. How did you come out here, then?
So I applied to master's programs.
We went too far. How from the beginning? Like, you went to art school?
So I went to regular school.
Regular school. Sorry,
we don't have any art schools.
Art schools.
They told my parents that I should go to one, but the closest one was in France, and my parents were like, "She's not gonna grow up away from us," like, you know. So I stayed in Lebanon, went to a normal school.
Got it. There's no art school in Lebanon.
No. I wish there was.
Whoa.
I mean,
Okay.
like for high school and younger, you're saying, right?
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Fair.
Yeah. So.
Were there art classes at least? Art classes?
There are art classes, yeah, but honestly, I do feel like, similarly to you, I feel like a late bloomer because of that, like, lack of access. Like, it's not as accessible as it is here.
Yeah.
Certain trainings and things like that. And then by the time I was making my own money and had time for it, I called the conservatory and they asked how old I was. I think I was 21, and they're like, yeah, you're a little too old. Because the way conservatories work there is very competition-based, so they bring in the kids that
conservatories where again?
In Lebanon. In terms of just a music school, not an art school that you can go to and you know how here you will graduate high school and take all these different classes, but there's a different focus.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been the perfect thing because I really struggled. I went, and also I feel like I was going through a lot of post-colonialism feelings because it was a French school, and you know we have a history of being colonized by them, and we're learning this language. We're almost being taught French as a primary language when Arabic is the primary one, but Arabic is the one that you're speaking with your parents, so that keeps it strong.
Yeah.
And you're learning Arabic, but I don't know, they kind of stopped it after 9th grade.
Yeah.
So I really had a lot of resentment towards the school system.
Yeah.
They brought a lot of foreign professors that spoke to us in ways that made us literally called us barbaric, and that we should be thankful that they're making us civilized. And so I think that I had a lot of issues with the school system, though it was a very good school. And then I studied filmmaking at ALBA, which is the Académie Libanaise des Beaux-Arts, which is the Lebanese Academy of Fine Arts.
Okay, and how old are you?
I was 17 when I started.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then when I graduated, I worked in TV and film for 4 to 5 years. And then the whole time that was happening, there was this itch that I was like, I really want to do theater. I really want to specialize in singing, but not, in a musical theater style.
Musical theater, yeah.
I really want to be working on new shows, new works.
Yeah.
In theater and music. I really was a big fan of rock musicals like Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and so I was really gravitating towards New York and the US, and applying to these different schools and universities and master's programs, because I thought about it. I was like, well, first of all, this is what's going to get me physically into the US, because I had no other way of coming here other than as a student. And I was like, and then if I can try and stay and it works out, that's great. But also I needed all this training that I was catching up on, because I went a different route doing film. And so this was a really focused master's program for people who weren't, didn't get a bachelor's in it necessarily. And it gave you, our final project was a capstone, which means you also finish with a show that's your original show. Yeah. So it pushes you to create your own work, as well as have teaching credentials, or teaching, because it is I forget what they call it, a terminal degree.
Got it.
There isn't a higher. There's no PhD or I'm sure there's PhDs
higher
in specific
education
yeah. So technically, I can teach at a college level.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I made that decision for all of those strategic reasons.
Which school did you come out here? Berklee.
Boston Conservatory at Berklee. So I went to Boston Conservatory. It was merged with Berklee. So it's now Boston Conservatory at Berklee. And after that, I was a fellow at Berklee College of Music. Also in my time at Boston, I worked at American Repertory Theater in dramaturgy.
Okay.
And then the pandemic happened.
Oh, wow. And then you came down here. When did you come to New York?
So I kind of don't, like my official moving date was August 2021.
Okay.
But I'd really been spending a lot of time here during the pandemic because I'm an immigrant, right?
Yeah.
So my work visa was activated by working at this theater company and working at Berklee. The Berklee Fellowship program literally like concluded July of 2020.
Oh, wow, okay.
And when the pandemic happened, Harvard, so I worked at American Repertory Theater, and Harvard had a hiring freeze. So a lot of us that were part-timers or fellows or apprentices and whatever, someone like people who weren't like fully full-timers or, you know, I don't know what kind of employees they call them, but like with benefits.
I believe you.
Just help me.
Just make up words.
All right, okay. So they had to let go of a lot of us, and it really had nothing to do with anyone that I knew or worked with. It was like from higher up. And that sent me into like, I think the right word is catapult. Like it just sent me through like a whole whirlwind, snowball, whatever you want to call it, of like, you know, I have to like activate my visa now, like with an artist visa, because that was my plan. What my plan was to continue working in theater companies and like admin and also performance.
Yeah. Trying to survive, basically. You're just trying as much as you can.
Yeah. But then I found myself at a time where how do you tell the U.S. government or immigration, how do you send a petition in for an artist visa for the live arts?
Yeah.
If everything's shut down.
Yeah.
So basically they weren't approving a lot of like artist visa. They were like taking the money.
Is it the O? What is it
the
called?
O one.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
like
it's the hardest one.
It's very hard and it's also temporary for 3 years. And what's hard about it is you're not allowed to work in any field that's not what you came here to study. So only musical theater.
Yeah.
So I'm not allowed to work in anything else during a pandemic. And like there were so many like difficult. You can't work in TV and film and media or online because that's
crazy.
a different field. You can't work in the service industry.
Wow.
Now I can, but I couldn't at the time. And then you have to provide contracts that are 3 years in advance, just to prove that that you should have your visa activated for that long.
Yeah.
And then it's also called Alien of Extraordinary Ability. That's the name of the visa. It's
You're
one
an
of the
alien.
most like funny facts. Like literally called an alien.
That's funny.
And you have to be extraordinary. So like on top of that,
very normal.
You've got to be extraordinary or extraordinary.
Extra boring.
So alien
vanilla.
And
vanilla lattes all day. Pumpkin spice.
No.
Extraordinary, please.
Ordinary. No,
basic as we come.
Yes, basic
White
as we come.
bread. I'm kidding.
Or completely amazing. And like, what does that mean to you? And for me, I think what I unpack a lot
Superman.
is when I like think about, like nothing to me is ever separate from like identity or art or whatever. So like this piece of visa, like piece of visa regulation or whatever, I think puts in question a lot of like tokenization, like things like that. Like, cause like not just tokenization, but like what does it mean to be extraordinary?
Yeah.
And so it explains, it goes into it, and it says that it's someone who performs something that no other American can do to a certain degree of excellence, and that you've served.
Wait, hold on. Are we saying extraordinary?
Extraordinary.
Got it. I thought you said extraordinary.
Well, that's what I said. I think they're the same thing. They're not the same word.
Ordinary is boring and normal.
I know, but isn't extraordinary?
Extraordinary is above and beyond.
Extraordinary is the same word as extraordinary.
I guess so. I don't know. I never heard it in that way. Maybe I'm crazy, guys. I'm sorry.
I love that you went into it. You were like, we're going to be extra basic, pumpkin spice latte. Blah, blah, blah.
So you're currently doing theater, correct?
Yes.
So do you think that your style has changed over the years?
Yes.
Since you've been in musical theater?
Yes, but you have to remember that I also changed their careers.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like my style did change, but it was also over a medium change too.
Like how long ago?
Like I would say when I moved here, my the way I started writing really changed.
Yeah.
And so when I was in Lebanon, I feel like I wrote a lot of escapist things, a lot of things that were abstract, a lot of things that were kind of like maybe on the exterior very colorful, but the content is rotten. Like think how like Wes Anderson's world is all these colors, but it's a dysfunctional family. That's what I mean. It's like it was a lot of escapists. And then also, yeah, I was writing to an audience that already knew a lot of the things I knew too, and felt a lot of the things I felt too.
Yeah.
And so, in that way, like you don't really make up like you don't have to do a lot of educating or like setting the scene, because everyone, if it's set in Lebanon, everyone already kind of knows what the deal is.
Okay.
So it pushes you to be creative and express like this, maybe the same sense of like nihilism or ennui or frustration or helplessness or maybe joyful feelings, but in different ways. Because you're just communicating with people who are like you've had the same upbringing.
Yeah.
But then when I came here, I definitely feel like I have to contextualize things a lot, and I started to write more from a more like realism lens with like some snippets of escapism still in there.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I was there, I was experiencing a lot of like just like feeling really ready to move on to something else, and I had this dream I was pursuing, and so a lot of what I wrote was about, like kind of about people getting away or someone always on the fringe of society and things like that. And now when I'm writing here, I feel like I have to educate, because if it's set in Lebanon, I have to do a lot more explaining to an audience that's going to watch it and care about it.
Yeah.
So I feel that in that way. And then stylistically, I write more from a realistic lens of like portraying things like kind of like social justice, like stories that are about how the queer community is affected, but how there's still a very resilient scene.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of, I feel like there's this idea of the traditional like Hakawati storyteller in Arab culture being like a traveler who brings stories and feats of people. And I feel like now that I'm like overseas here, I used to write about like getting away, and now I'm writing tales of like the most resilient people I know, but here, you know. So I went from escapist and abstract and surreal to more real and grungy and earthy and rooted. Like
Got it.
Yeah. I also really needed to escape when I was in Lebanon. Like so when I would write, I would really like take myself to another world. And now I feel like I'm very melancholic and nostalgic.
Yeah.
So I just keep rewriting my city again and again, like into existence. And it's interesting. I've noticed it. And I do question myself a lot, like, why would they care about the story here? You know? So I have to, it can't just be about a Lebanese story. Like, I think I like push myself into like, what are the universal themes here? You know, about like community, about family, about belonging, about what is home, and is it even a place? Like, because I feel like the way I'll connect with an American audience is, you know, everyone's an immigrant here.
Yeah.
And everyone, you know, is where they are because of what their ancestors have like fought towards.
Yeah.
Hopefully on the right side of history.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I can connect with people in the U.S. in that way, on that note. And then also, one thing I like to do in my writing here is, because I'm an actor and I audition for a lot of Middle Eastern roles that aren't written by Middle Easterners.
It's like messed up, you think?
It fuels me to write because I don't find myself represented on the page. Like I told you, I grew up in rock bands. Like we have a lot of bars that make space for cultural activities like open mics and poetry, storytelling, music, like I'm seeing all that stuff because of like a lack of funding and you know, there isn't like a machine the way that theater is produced here, over
Yeah.
there. So it ends up art ends up appearing in the most authentic of places, and just like places we gather. And the one of the pieces I'm writing is called Radio Beirut, and it's just set in a bar that is an open mic bar, and it's a love story, like a lesbian love story. I auditioned to a lot of parts that are like
Not representing.
or
Yeah.
literally just called burqa. Like there isn't even a character name, just burqa. You know what I mean?
That's so degrading.
Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy shit. And then I don't feel like I'm represented on the page here. Like when I audition, like I don't really see someone who's Middle Eastern who's, you know, kind of questioning faith, or not questioning faith, or pursuing something that's against like what society expects them to,
Yeah.
or being in rock, or being in a bar. Like I feel like people here like can never imagine Arab bar. Like they just it's not something that they're used to.
Yeah, they're not
And so I
used to
try
that, yeah.
in my writing a lot to just like write what I know and write what I grew up around, because I don't want people asking anymore if I come from the desert, if I rode a camel to school, if I, you know what I mean?
Damn, that's so messed up.
I just feel like it's like I write from a more like of
Yeah.
like, and I say this feeling really weird about, like, I don't want to come across mean or like I'm calling everyone ignorant. I'm not generalizing, but I've definitely gotten those comments and have been asked those things.
Who made you pursue your career in the way you wanted it to go right now? And I kind of feel that you already kind of answered that by your dad and your mom being artistic, and your dad's on the stage a lot. Like, it's kind of no-brainer almost.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
Were there any more other outside influences, like any figures that you kind of felt that inspired you to become an actor, that made that meter move?
I think like one of my biggest influences in terms of singers, like the very first one that I remember is Emily from Evanescence.
Okay.
And it's because of that like operatic, dramatic, like theatrical thing combined with rock. And for me, like singing it made me feel like, you know, I had a lot of sadness and grief from like a loss in the family, and
Sorry.
it was the only thing that, like the only genre
Comforting.
of music that, or the only songs that I would sing that would make me feel better.
Yeah.
And still to this day right now, when I'm feeling like dysregulated or depressed or whatever, like sometimes nothing will work. No yoga, no meditation, no nothing, but singing is the only thing that will work.
Sure.
And I think it really started with her. I think it really started with her.
And then that kind of like moved on to, do you have any musical theater heroes that you kind of look into? Or not
Yeah.
really, you come from your own,
I do, and there's like a
it's probably your dad's influence here, like
yeah.
creating your from nothing.
yeah, and then we have our own kind of genre of like musicals in Lebanon.
Yeah.
It used to be more folklore, and then
How do you call it in Lebanon? Arabic.
Masrah Ghina'i, which just means like sung theater or like musical
Sung theater, okay. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And it's not anything like Western musical theater. I feel like Egyptian cinema and theater was very influenced by the West, while still maintaining its integrity and its identity.
Yeah.
But I think stylistically, the way they produced those films, because Egypt had like a big, like was like Hollywood of the Middle East.
Yeah.
And then Lebanon, like the musical theater, it definitely evolved. One of the most prominent like families that have composed for it are called the Rahbanis.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rahbanis, there's multiple generations, and my favorite would be Ziad al-Rahbani.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like everyone's favorite. Like it's not
Okay.
a very shocking thing of me to say, but he basically, I think was like, he'd been composing since he was a kid. His father was a composer, fell ill in the middle of a production. His mother was the singer.
Oh, wow.
And I think he was 16 at the time when he had to jump in and continue like music directing the show and compose the rest of it. And his style, I mean, his father went from composing a lot of like folklore musicals about like village ideals, and you know, you had the sort of these characters that was like, you had your hero and the love interest, and then like the bad guy who came, like the thief that's coming from the nearby town, and you know, and the sheriff, and it was very like a tales of a simple time, and just like happy endings and things like that. And then when Ziad, my favorite like influential composer in musical theater, he was like most of his career spent like during the Civil War. He's a big leftist. Wrote like the entire. I mean, just he had a lot of influences from jazz and Latin music, like bossa nova, like all types of like blues. And so it was Arabic music infused with a lot of that, and to sort of express a lot of the kind of being like disparaged by this war, the frustration, because you also had this like intellectual left that like has the solutions or knows this big setup. That, you know, but you're the little guy who can't do anything about the war, you know, and you know that there's people with money in their pockets. So he's like that like political thinker who's also a composer who wrote these stories that also resemble what I described, you know, kind of like a very grungy, earthy, like real. I think as I'm growing older, like, I'm gravitating towards that a lot because I'm just tired of. I'm tired of beating around the bush. Like, this is what's wrong. Like I literally, one of my plays is called Article 534, which is about a law in Lebanon that discriminates against the LGBTQIA+. And I didn't even feel the need to name it anything else because I want people to be like, Article 534, what's that? Google. Like sometimes art isn't just about creating something for like a desirable effect or something, but really about just like, this thing is happening. I'm writing a fictional story around it, but it's also kind of verbatim theater, which is, you know, a lot of the times in like activism when you're writing like about things that are about social justice or human rights and things like that. There's that aspect to it of like, you just want people to feel like there's something actionable, like they can watch it and look something up about it or do something about it.
You're a voice where the voices are not heard. So I think it's important that a lot of history and revolt comes from just music and theater, like in the olden times at least. And that's why like they ban a lot of theaters and ban some musicians because they have too much of they call it too much of an idea, too strong of an idea. That could take down a government, which is wild to think about it.
Art is a weapon of peace.
It's crazy.
And you know, and the pen itself is a weapon too. You know, and and my dad was in one of his plays.
Wow.
And in his dad's plays too, the Rahbanis. So it's kind of, And in terms of US, I love Stephen Sondheim and Jonathan Larson. I really love Janine Tesori, Tom Kitt, and a lot of other composers. The Lazours, they're two Lebanese American brothers. I worked with them on a musical called We Live in Cairo.
Nice.
So they're definitely doing like a lot of. I'm following in their steps a lot here because they were. I think We Live in Cairo was the first Arab musical that was produced at that scale. And so they're definitely paving the way for a lot of us.
That's awesome. So when you came out here, and how did you come out? So you did you applied online and got into the school.
Got a scholarship.
Got the scholarship, right? And then from there, you're done, and you were like, this pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And then you were done with that. You didn't have time left to be in. Well, to keep on being here, you have to do like any sort of because I've been hearing this a lot. You got to do, in order for you to apply your what do they call that?
Your
thing?
O1, So
O1.
I'm not on an O1 right now.
Okay.
I'm not on an artist visa.
Okay, wait, well, hold on. Before that, you said you were the Berklee situation that was done, and then from there you jumped to where?
From there, the pandemic was fully happening.
Yeah.
And I was finishing up my lease in Boston August of 2020, just waiting to go back to Lebanon because I was like, I guess this is it. Like, we don't know what's happening with the world. Like, I'm just going to go home. And then the explosion happened in Beirut that claimed like over 200 lives. It was massive.
It's
and
crazy.
It happened August 4th.
Your
And
parents?
So my mom was there. We had like, she was very affected by it.
Shocked.
But physically, thankfully, she was fine.
Yeah.
The house had some damage to it, but that's like no one, like,
wild.
Yeah, there were way worse, like people impacted way worse by it. And that was when I was kind of like, okay, I have to like try to figure something else out because, I mean, to give you an idea, when the explosion happened, 2 hospitals were like completely like destroyed. Like, and then in terms of like how much, it's like almost like a lot of the capital was destroyed and affected. And then like a part of it was protected by this grain silo that was on the port, which is kind of a dream. And like our house was in a bit of a valley or a slope, and so like a lot of pressure went a little higher. So we just had like.
So you were close to it. That's great.
Yeah, and so my plan was to go back, and then when that happened, my folks were like, just try to stay put. Right, like maybe not stay forever, but try to stay put for now because we don't know what's.
You don't know what's up,
happen.
the air or whatever.
And it was during the pandemic.
For sure.
And we had the economic crisis right after. So I started cold emailing lawyers in New York because my lease was in Boston. I had to pack up all my stuff. I put them in storage.
Yeah.
And I filed for a petition for non-removal.
Yeah.
So just basically being like, hey, I know my status is expiring and I have a grace period before I have to leave, but it's a special circumstance and I'm staying here. And I started cold emailing every single lawyer in New York. At the time, Trump was changing a lot of policies affecting international students. So there were these schools that connected with law firms that were helping students pro bono.
Yeah.
And I was kind of a fresh graduate from the master's program. I was like finishing my post-year fellowship. And I was like, hey, this is my situation. Like, can you help me like get an artist visa or something? You know, like I've got to figure something out. And they answered, even the ones that didn't have capacity answered and were like, sorry, we don't, but they might, and connected me with someone. It's an incredible community of like attorneys and just NGO workers and arts workers who like banded together to help people and are still like actively working. And I got supported by one of the law firms to apply for permanent stay. Because of the sort of like the window of time where the explosion happened. Like you're allowed, if it's within 90 days of something happening.
Nice. So you got
stay. So I'm still waiting on some paperwork, but it looks like I'm gonna be able to be here for good. I don't know.
Yeah. That's awesome. So then from there, let's say, so now you got that set, and then what did you do from there?
So crucial detail. I had an aunt. I have an aunt and a cousin here, and their family in New York. So
you cheated?
I'm
kidding.
Cheated.
No,
so I put my
I'm kidding.
I put my stuff in storage. And I drove with my friend from Boston with whatever stuff I brought and my guitar in the middle of both of us.
Nice.
And we drove here to New York, and I just crashed with my family. Was in their COVID bubble. For a while. Continued applying for my paperwork, and then got a letter back August 2021 that I was good for a bit, and so I feel like I officially moved then.
Nice.
Even though I was kind of here before, but that's like when I got my first job because I was out of a work permit that entire time. During the pandemic, like I couldn't have income for anything. I really had to rely on. I was couch surfing. I was staying with family on both coasts. This is like my mom's siblings. I don't have like immediate family, but I have extended family here. And thanks to them, like I was able to survive the pandemic because I wouldn't have been able to. Who's your favorite Beatle? Paul McCartney?
Yeah. I like Paul. He's chill. What is your favorite snack?
Chocolate sorbet ice cream. It gives me the illusion that it's healthy.
No.
If you were away from New York for a very long time, what's the first place that you would come and visit when you're
Tahiti.
back?
Wait, come back? Tahiti random.
What's the first spot you show people who are visiting New York?
Chelsea Market. What's your favorite movie?
Royal Tenenbaums. Do you have any plants in your house?
Yes. What's your favorite dish?
Love kusa. It's a zucchini with rice and ground meat and tomato soup in Lebanon. Have you had long hair for a long time? Oh, it's a yes or no question.
Yes.
How long have you had this long hair for?
A year. What's your favorite fruit?
I like mangoes a lot. What do you have for breakfast?
Nothing. What is your favorite place in New York City?
Maurice Crisis Bar. I feel like that's a very unique place on earth. How many instruments do you play?
Does a triangle count?
Yes, it does.
Then 12. Yeah, but couldn't about 12. What is your favorite color?
Purple. What's the longest flight you've ever been?
Going back home to Malaysia, 18 hours.
That's like Lebanon.
What is your favorite place in Lebanon?
A place called Jaita Grotto. It's like basically water and mud frozen over time. What's your favorite color?
Red. How many tattoos do you have?
One. When was the last time you were yelled at by a customer?
I don't even remember. Maybe 2009. What is your favorite gallery?
The Metropolitan was really cool. Did you go to the beach this summer, and what beach?
Don't go to the beach. What's your favorite instrument?
Electric guitar.
I know, you can't relax. You have to use your brain. Come back.
Do you have a favorite superhero?
Batman. What is your favorite thing to do on a day off?
I love going to be close to any water, like here.
Do you surf?
I don't, but I literally was going to ask you that next when you said that you're a West Coast. Do you skate?
I used to. I broke my pinky, 45 degree. And then I was like, what is your favorite pastry?
Pain au chocolat. No, sorry, the eclair. Do you kill lanternfly?
I tried. Too many. What is your favorite rock band?
Right now, I really love Always. Always is a Canadian, Britpop.
Yep.
Oh, you know them. You
Yeah.
love them. Yeah, we talked about it.
I look like a crazy person.
No, you don't. What's your favorite season?
Fall. What's your favorite genre of music?
New wave. What color are my eyes?
Brown.
They're hazel. Are you a guy or guy? I said. Do you listen to any podcasts?
Yeah, so many.
How old were you the first time you had any instrument?
Disclosure, my brother was a country teacher. I've had an instrument since I was always a little kid. I actually have a scar from a guitar when I was 3, long cut from the string.
Oh, wow.
So I forgot about that, my brother's guitar. I was trying to be funny and then run, and then I just scraped me, just sliced me, and I was like, ah!
Oh my God.
And I saw the inside of my tendon, ah!
That bad?
I'm kidding, no, I didn't. When's the first time you started singing?
7, 8? Do you like going to the den?
No. Where's your favorite place to go eat in New York City?
It's called Ilili.
I saw that you were on a farm. What was that?
That was Space on Writer Farm.
Yeah.
So that's an art retreat.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. Oh, you don't want to talk about that?
I'll talk about that. So Space on Writer Farm, it's this...
How did you get into that?
So I was in the Joe's Pub working group,
Oh,
the
okay.
residency.
Yeah.
It's a 1-year residency that I was a part of. And one of the perks of being in the residency, they give you a stipend, rehearsal space and all that.
Yeah.
But also you get a week away at this retreat that's kind of, I don't know if they're maybe like partners, like there's a partnership between Space on Writer Farm and Joe's Pub, or they're just like friendly organizations.
Yeah.
But I think it's an institutional partnership, and they send the artists from their cohort every year to Space on Writer Farm, and it's really it was an amazing opportunity to like get away from the New York pace a little bit, put myself in like a different element, and connect with other artists. Also, all the food that we were eating came from their crops. And things
organic.
they planted, organic.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful time. It was really beautiful.
How long were you there?
6 days. So yeah, it was an art retreat, and I worked on my show Radio Beirut when I was there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I really needed to plant myself again, like or ground myself, for lack of a better word.
No pun intended.
Just like
no pesticides
really,
involved.
No pesticides here. But really, like, just I feel like when you're in survival mode for a very long time, you tend to also like start to like not let even the gravitational pull of your body, like you're always like,
you have so much shield up. Or wall.
Yeah, but really, like it was an opportunity to just reconnect.
Be vulnerable.
And
don't use the word.
Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I love getting to know the other artists who were there.
Yeah, I bet that was a treat.
We also worked on the farm a little bit.
Yeah. What?
I don't know if it's called.
Get him calling it out. Like, what did you guys do? Like, here, take a bucket, peel that.
No, that's literally what we did.
Yeah.
We had onions, and then we had to, like, you know how you shuck a corn?
Yeah.
I don't know if you say shuck an onion, but we were doing whatever the shucking.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm not a farmer, but I know what you're saying.
But we talked about, I mean, the conversations that we had around dinner time every night were really amazing because we were a bunch of artists who came from like different paths of lives, different countries, just kind of gathering over a meal.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. And it's kind of, you know, sometimes in the way that like we're so isolated and we've got these like screens and we're a little bit selfish, I think, in the way the world works right now.
Yeah.
It's rare that you know how sometimes you go closer with the people that you went to college with, or say like people who survived very traumatic incidents.
Yes.
Like say they were isolated somewhere or whatever. Like they talk about
real things.
A community or a unison that they felt in that like because of the situation that they were in. It felt like when I went to Writer Farm, there wasn't really going to be another opportunity for any of us to really sit down and take the time and look people in the eye and talk to them and get to know them, talk about their lives and their art and everything phoned down. It was like, I wish more of life was like that. It was a great moment of pause. And I think a big takeaway from that Writer Farm was that everything is writing. I think that one thing I'm trying to learn better and better is process. I think a lot of art can be very product or like result heavy and a lot of pressure on it being good or being whatever like labels we attach to it that makes it so hard to make art sometimes.
Yeah.
The best reminder was just like kind of that everything is writing. So for example, I'd come downstairs and I'd be like, oh my God, I slept way too long. And then the people that were, you know, working at Writer Farm, they're like, this is so normal. Like whenever someone comes from being like overstimulated from a city like New York City and comes to the farm, like your body like now gets to relax and actually have a restful sleep. So they're like, actually you sleeping in is a very normal thing. It happens to a lot of people.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because I was feeling guilt about that. And then having these conversations with the people who work there and the other artists, like someone just like sitting by the lake for a long time, journaling, and I'm like, what did you do today? And they're like, just journaled by the lake for a little bit. I'm like, oh, you didn't like get any like writing done?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I think journaling is part of writing.
Yeah.
You know, like you're journaling about something that you're feeling, and it's definitely going to feed into the writing. Or you sleeping, or you like touching a sheep that's there. Yeah. It's all writing. You know, everything is a process, and I think sometimes I and other people are very hard on ourselves whenever we're having any restful moment or moment of research and exploration, because it's like, no, you got to do. And it actually, like, it's a more holistic thing than all that. And I think the retreat gave me an opportunity to remember that it's okay to sometimes to, like, just be. I think, like, that's also why I don't read a lot of books. Yeah. Every time I read a book, I'm stressing that I should be writing and not reading. Yeah. But also you have to consume.
Yeah, you have to consume.
No. So I'm learning a lot of balance, which is a good segue into your next series of questions.
Yes. How do you balance your work that you have right now that you're doing? And like, I don't know if you have a day job that you do kind of like on the side, and how do you make time for doing your art?
Yeah.
Do you have a set schedule or you use an app? That's fine too.
So I currently have an artistic job, which is a stage manager or performance coordinator at Joe's Pub. I also work as a server at a restaurant on, and I'm in a residency. So like in a physical residency that I was given, like commissioned to write these pieces, these two projects.
Awesome.
And so there definitely is a daily, like, you've got to do a lot because I'm given a residency, and so I don't want to waste resources or regret, like not making the most of my time there.
Yeah.
So I try to organize my days, especially because I'm someone with ADHD or like mental health issues on certain days, it helps me to structure things, but I also can't structure them too much because I do get overwhelmed and start to feel like if I'm looking at the time and we're past what I've written down, I've already failed and I'm off the, so I have to be a little bit flexible and loving to myself. I will typically wake up feeling a little bit overactivated and anxious. So I like start with a walk or stretching or some kind of like stimming to music or something. I'm not autistic, but I do find that to be very helpful for someone who has PTSD, which I do. So I have to deal with a lot of nervous system things. I start my day with like yoga, meditation, those things. Then and then I try to do emails just like in the morning, just like try to send out as many as I can, shower, have my coffee,
So
whatever.
this is a routine that you're telling me right now?
This is a routine. And then by like noon, I usually go to the gym. I go to the gym for an hour. I try to go every day because if I don't do that, I cannot maintain a routine. I'm a very all in, all out kind of person. And so I do that. The only time I don't go to the gym is when I'm sick. Which sucks because when that happens, I definitely stop going for 2 weeks. So I'm working on also changing my mentality of like, if I don't go every day, it doesn't mean I'm not maintaining a routine. But it's hard building a habit. So I feel like it's okay for a bit to go every day until I can trust that I can skip a day and go back.
Absolutely.
And then I try to if I'm consuming like podcasts or music, or I listen to music all the time, the whole day. I have to limit a lot of sensory input from the city, things like that, especially a lot of helicopters set me off. And so music is a very important part of keeping me stable throughout the day.
Now talking about like your daily routine, that's awesome. Do you have like a scheduling thing that you do? Do you use any apps or?
So I use Google Calendar for that.
Out.
I think it's convenient because it syncs like from my laptop to my phone and everything. And then I actually got some help from YouTubers that talk about organizing your life for like an ADHD person, and they have certain things that you can download that can color coordinate things for you. I love our featured guest.
A bird just loves to hang out here.
Oh, wow. That you can download things like where they've color coordinated a bunch of things, or like you can, I don't know if it's a plugin or something, but there are people that sell things or that you can download them for free that just are like act as a plugin for Google Calendar.
So use that. That helps you organize in the time and
and it's also easy when you got like Zooms with other people and whatever. Like you can easily share that with folks. I also am a very classic person. I have a notebook that I take everywhere with me and an agenda, like a calendar.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So you need some analog.
Yeah, I do. I'm a very analog person.
How many days in the week that you work your part-time job?
So I was full-time before. So when I was just a barista, I was working 4 to 5 days a week. And then the rest of the days I was trying to do my art. Then when I got the residency, I changed jobs. I became a server. I was working 4 days as a server and then like 1 or 2 days at Joe's Pub. So full-time schedule, and then I had to free up a lot of time for the residency. So now I only serve on weekends, and then I work just like floating shifts here and there at Joe's Pub like throughout the week. And the rest of the time is my creative time. And that's because I have a show coming up. And my residency ends in December, so I've got like a deliverable. So I allowed myself sculpt out time. And so but typically I'm overworked and I'm rushing.
So your days look like they're like what? How much time to sleep?
I would say I get a good 7 hours.
Okay. But in that whole time, you're like going, writing,
Yeah.
work. If you're not working, you're doing other stuff.
Yeah, I try to think of my days as like, if it's a day that I'm working a job,
Yeah.
I think about productivity differently. If it's a day that's completely free, I will like schedule it and be like, you know, I've got to work on my voice. I've got to do my like physical like movement training. There's so many things to warm up. I've got to work on like guitar. I've got to work on my piano. I've got to work on. So there's a lot of like technical drilling things that are like half an hour. Emails, you know, sometimes if I don't get them done in the morning, that's my like nighttime thing. But if it's a day that I'm working somewhere, I'm a lot kinder to myself, and productivity means sometimes watching something. Or like, you know, reading a book or taking a walk and like thinking and jotting down a couple of ideas, because I know that this is a day where I'm like, I'm doing this so I can eat and keep a roof over my head and get everything else going. I don't need to go that hard on myself to make the best piece ever created on that day. And then on the other days, I'm a little more strict with myself. And I think I learned that from my job, my boss at my job back in Lebanon, at the TV job. Because when you have a creative position, and you know, he was our kind of leading the team, it's impossible to have a fruitful creative day every single day. And so we would say like, but what do we do on the days that we can't create? Like we feel so guilty, and we feel like, you know, it's like time theft. Like you're showing up and you're just like on YouTube and you're like, I don't know what to write. Like you feel bad. And he was like, don't think of it that way. Think of those as research days. So you've got your like writing days and your research days. So I kept that. Yeah, my research days are the days that I'm like, this is writing too.
I like that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Going on to relationships with family, friends, how do you juggle that?
Okay. Well, so the way I manage my time with friends and family is I don't have immediate family here, so I try to visit my extended family when I can, and the rest of the time I'm trying to call my mom and my dad and my brother as often as I can. And then I have a nice like group of friends that are like my family here too. So I spend time with them a lot. I reach out to them when I feel like I need a co-working buddy. I feel like most of the work I've done has been because of accountability buddies.
That's great.
You know, either being like, we're gonna start a writing thing for 1 month and get on a Zoom once a week and check in, or like we're gonna sit at a coffee shop across from one another, and then I'm gonna pass you my laptop, or just some aspect of like body doubling. You know, someone's there to.
Oh, man, that's so interesting. I need to start doing that.
Because you know what, too? Having service jobs, like it's the survival part, but I also get a lot of joy out of it. And sometimes it does make me feel like, it's so nice to put your brain on autopilot. Because sometimes serving, like, maybe bartending requires more of like, math, like, no,
probably
ratios.
less.
Okay. Or when someone's
doing
like,
nothing. Yes, you're
I was saying like, I also had like caught myself a bunch of times feeling like getting comfortable in the service job. Not like, it definitely, not comfortable is too positive a word, but feeling like...
No, I think it is correct. I mean, because, okay, let me just say this. I sometimes feel like when you're too comfortable at your serving job, you feel like, and then you don't move forward. You just stay in that position because it feels so like you said, comfortable. And you don't keep moving, which is why I am also having things personally. I'm doing that too, like making sure that I focus more on my actual art than just being a NPC there. Just you know.
Because you get to notice, like you notice. I feel like it would be like 2 or 3 weeks of me just being like, all right, let's hustle, let's do this. And I'm like showing up full time to these jobs and whatever. And then on the weekends, I'm just kind of like relaxing. And then next thing you know, you haven't worked on your art for 3 weeks. You know, and I think that's why I apply to a lot of grants and residencies, like obviously for the support, but also just to give you that push that you've got someone who's interested in your work and like wants to put it on, and you're going to deliver it. And so I feel like that has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And also in identifying, like I feel a lot of the times we're at a standstill because a lot of this field or like artistic fields, like people don't always offer up what the journey looks like.
Yeah.
And you're kind of figuring it out on your own. And as I'm talking to more people, more collaborators, mentors, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I'm gonna do next.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important to stay connected and
I
getting
think so.
that
Yeah, for
mentorship
sure.
too.
I agree with that. Can you share like your routine for, your art, creating your art?
Yeah, I try to do morning pages, which is just sort of.
What is it, Julie
Cameron?
Yeah.
Cameron. Yeah. I initially I started doing them before I read the book actually.
Oh wow. Okay.
I just like heard about the concept and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess you just write like 10
Nonsense
pages.
more,
And,
yeah.
and I think that's important to get like a flow going, to get like obviously some crucial things off your mind, to like unplug. I think like and then also push yourself because when you're writing, like you get to end of page 3 and you're like I'm done, I'm good, and you're like, no, it's like kind of a discipline thing too, of like, okay, I'm gonna keep writing, but I'm not gonna write gibberish. So what am I saying? So it sort of like stimulates. It's a good way to start the day.
Yeah. It's like starting an engine slowly.
Yeah. And like I said, like I have to start with my body before I continue, because then my mind's all over the place.
It's fair, yeah.
So a bit of cleaning, a bit of putting things in order, and then putting my own body in order. Because of like anxiety and whatnot, like you tend to just lift up and just reminding yourself that, I do a lot of, I try to walk by the river or like walk among green and just ground myself and do a lot of breathing exercises, things like that, and just like sort of softening and like that connection between like me and my body, because when you do get unpleasant sensations, they're really there to warn you that danger is coming. But if you just act like, if you're just kind of like, I used to get really angry because I felt like it hindered me from continuing in my day. But then I met this wonderful Alexander technique practitioner called Diane Hovhanessian, and she asked me to shift that perspective with me and was like, well, what are these sensations you're getting? And I was like, I don't know, it's my body talking to me, it's warning me. And it's like, okay, well, what is warning? I'm like, what's helping, right? So what if you took that as a thank you for warning me, but I'm actually fine. I'm not in the place that you think you are. We are here, and then situate yourself. I'm in the US, I'm in Boston, I'm in New York, whatever it is, and bring yourself like back. And then when I had a kinder connection with my body, things got a lot easier. So it's a daily thing for me of like doing morning pages, doing some sort of like psychosomatic like body work like that, leaving the house for sure. I have to leave the house because otherwise I will not leave the house for a week. Like I have to force myself to leave the house. I get very like hermity. And then sometimes I'll do what you do, which is sit at a coffee shop and write, because I feel like
How do you know
your
what I
bed
do?
is not there. Oh, right, we can't. the magic of
Stalker. Let me continue.
I go to a coffee shop. I think it's a lot easier to not like have your bed right there and want to give up and just like,
For sure.
and then I'll just work for a while. It helps to work with a friend.
Yeah.
That's on days that I just kind of, I'm doing my own thing. I'll come back, I'll do some guitar, just practice my voice, whatever errands I have to do. And then I'll try to I watch a lot of shows. Like, I try to see a lot of music, a lot of theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then,
Cool.
Yeah.
And do you give yourself a break? Do you do this thing where you kind of schedule out like, as in like a vacation time, or you just kind of like, okay, now is a break time, or I don't know, how do you? And also, not only that, the holiday part, not holiday, that's British term, vacation. I went to a British school. That's my quirk.
Okay.
So they call
Probably very
holidays
similar
a
to
vacation.
holidays, yeah.
Yeah. So you're working. What I was trying to say that every day you kind of have a routine, but are there days that you don't? Like you just give yourself, okay, I'm not doing anything today, or is it just you don't? You just work every day.
I do. I have to because when you are in a residency, things can get jumbled, and then your work days can look like your off days because I feel like I almost do better on my days that I know that I have to head to work at a certain time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, better get this done or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I get things done. But the days that I have the full day to myself, I have to make a very intentional decision if this is going to be an off day, do whatever the you want, or if it's going to be like a hour to hour like scheduled day. And honestly, the very honest truth is that sometimes I don't even get through half of the structured day.
Fair.
And then the rest of it ends up being like, okay, this is however much we were able to do today, and that's all right.
Yeah.
'Cause I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I feel intensely guilty.
For sure. Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's okay. This is how much, because there's no point in pushing yourself beyond that. I mean, discipline's important, but there's also a place of like, this is not fruitful anymore.
Yeah.
And recharging is a very real thing. So I'm going to recharge now.
Yeah.
And I'll do that. And if I'm able to come back to it, I will.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, then I'm not. Days off, though, I will pick one day a week that I maybe will lounge around. But what I like to do more is leave the house and not make a plan and just go moment to moment, whatever my desire is. Like if it's to go sit in a park and read for 2 hours, or if it's to go and like grab ice cream and go to a rooftop and sit there, like whatever. It's usually me alone and a lot of people watching and having some kind of treat.
Wow, you should name that like something like Lama's Walk.
Yeah, because
It's a children's book.
Yeah.
I just went outside.
Because it's also about like
a tree, an apple.
A tree, an apple. It's
a naked guy. Oops. No.
Oops. Because it's about like reconnecting, like we get a lot of you've got this device in your hand and there's a lot of input and a lot of like you get stuck in like this doom scroll and whatever, and I think we lose a lot of touch in like what really makes us happy. We start to place our values on different things, about appearances, about likes, about and then the other becomes this like big, I don't know, concept, because we're digitally connected, but there's no face. There's commenters, like whatever. So I try to put that down on that off day.
Nice. That's
and
good.
just separate. But the bad answer is that I haven't taken a vacation in years. I've really done like any time that I'm able to take off from work has been to do a theater gig.
Yeah.
And then I'm back to work and everyone's like expecting me to be rejuvenated, but I'm like, I just did a freelance contract and I'm back.
Sure.
Or I had to I would fly home to visit family, but I haven't like taken a vacation that's like just for me. And I'm like, I want to go here and place my finger on a map.
Yeah.
I really want to.
That's fair, it's fair. Vacation is a luxury in your mind. I feel that. I'm in that world too. Can you describe a specific instance where you faced setbacks or felt discouraged in your artistic journey?
Yeah.
Name one. I know there's a lot.
There's a lot. I know, like, one of the main ones was really feeling like moving to Boston to get that master's, working at Berklee on my fellowship, starting to build like in theater admin career, and then starting to build a theater career in admin, and then the pandemic sort of stopping everything I had like built up to that point in the U.S. as an immigrant.
I'm smiling, but
no, you're good. My suffering is a joy to you.
Yes, no, I'm kidding. Yum, 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 I'm kidding. Yeah.
In that moment, like, it was a very disappointing time because I'd like just moved for this master's, was working on campus, like working 2 jobs on campus, and then like started working at American Repertory Theater and felt like I was building a career in theater admin. And I was very excited to see where things were going in Boston. But then I think you know, it was just the pandemic. It's no one's fault, but it did sort of like bring down my house of cards, and then I had to start like rebuilding.
No, what were you trying to go for with the house of? Not house of admin.
House of cards, like in admin.
Like
admin,
yeah. Like
well, I'd always wanted to be a writer and a performer, but it was sort of like what I'm doing right now as a stage manager at Joe's Pub, like having a job in admin that's sort of stable
and pays the bills while you want to do other stuff.
Exactly.
But still being creative.
But still, yeah. I was working. I was working in dramaturgy at the time, and I wanted to continue in that path, or production, education, community outreach.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very like, it's all of the sort of programming that happens around a theater season. You know, like. And I got to work on some very cool projects while I was there. I was very excited to see where that path would lead. But then I had to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And I don't hate what I started from scratch. I love it, actually.
Yeah.
But at the time, I don't think I could see. Didn't have sight of what was coming.
Yeah.
It was very hard to be in a place feeling like there was no guarantee of having a roof over my head. Mm-hmm. There was no...
For sure.
I had no control because I didn't have a work permit anymore, and I didn't want to break the law and like work under the table, so I felt like I had to rely on other people, like, you know, so you lose a lot of your agency, you lose a lot of your like self-worth when you're going through things like that. It's very humiliating sometimes, you know.
How did you pull yourself out of that?
I feel like I kept writing throughout that, and there was some Zoom, there's a group called Play Incubation Collective. They're based out of Massachusetts, and basically it's for plays that are in development, people that want to like have a room of people and read this fresh new script and get feedback on. Yeah. So they moved on to doing things over Zoom, and so I would connect a lot to those. I would showcase a song or a piece of script, or I would read someone, I'd be an actress for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I think that was like a very important lifeline for me. Yeah. Because it was the one kind of job, like they weren't paying, or I asked them not to pay me so that I could legally do it. Yeah. And that was so important. You know, there wasn't any theater or music happening, but we had this like little bubble and like room on Zoom. I feel like that's how I survived that. And then I want to say immediately I applied to the residencies. And then when I moved to the city, I got my first service job. I started working at this Italian cafe.
What's it called?
It was a cashier, barista, and then a bar back.
What's this place called again?
Lodi. It's at One Rockefeller Center. That really just kind of was like my first time moving to New York City.
Yeah, fresh.
And the people I lived with, one of them is a Lebanese drag queen called Anyanese, and the other one, the ball gown boy, is like a fashion designer. I mean, both of them are fashion designers. So living in a house that was kind of like a Lebanese Palestinian home,
nice.
You know, it was very
Artistic.
important for me. And then also just like different than living with family too.
Yeah,
we were all like in our 30s. After that, I got the residency that I'm in right now.
Okay.
And the residency is run by the same people, like related to one of the organizations that helped me with my paperwork.
Wow, that's crazy.
Which was it was a crazy thing.
That's awesome.
So when I got the residency, I started immediately working on the play, and they told me, like, hey, we know what you've just gone through. We want you to consider this residency not only as an artistic one, but as one literally in place for you to get over all of the visa trauma that you've gone through.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry with the trauma, but it's awesome that you
good.
get that opportunity.
No, and you know, I love that they're pragmatic. Like, they're not just like, oh, we want you to write, and then like, if they would just say that and they're not aware that this person has gone through so much personal turmoil that they can't like maybe focus on writing right away. Yeah. So what they did is like they placed me in a residency where, I'm sorry, this is like maybe not for this, but this part, like I didn't have a work permit for 1 year. Yeah. So I had to use my my credit card, and I had to rely on family in terms of like sleeping there and eating their food. And so immediately they placed me in the residency as soon as I could, legally. And I was able to work and paid off my debt.
Oh, thank God.
So I know your question is artistically, how did you bounce back from that?
Yeah.
But I would not have bounced back artistically had I not gotten my life together.
No, this is even better than that.
Yeah. So that organization is called Artistic Freedom Initiative.
Yeah.
Tamizdat and Joe's Pub, they're a coalition.
Wow.
And the residency is called the SHIM NYC, Safe Haven Incubator for Music Residency. And they are kind of like sponsoring / like my event at Joe's Pub is under their festival, Queer Art Unbound. And it's happening October 14th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, let's talk about your upcoming show.
So I'm writing 2 shows right now. One of them is it's called Radio Beirut. It's a rock musical set in a Beirut bar.
Okay.
And the other one is called Not Harem Material, and it's more of a storytelling with music kind of cabaret show.
Yeah.
That's my show coming up.
Is that how you say it?
Not Harem Material.
Is that how you...
You could say harem. So my inspiration for the cabaret show, the Not Harem Material, is basically an encounter I had with a theater agent after I had showcased when I graduated. You showcase, you sing in front of a bunch of agents, and the idea is that you might get signed on.
Yeah.
So I got 3 agents, well, 3.5, that were interested in signing. And so I was like setting up my meetings, and I sit down with one of them, and he's a prominent like theater agent.
Yeah.
And we're talking the whole time. He's like kind of like being insulting, like a little bit weird, passive aggressive, just weird comments here and there. And then we took these photos. Why does your mouth look like that? Like weird things. So I'm like, oh, okay. And so I was starting to be like, why am I even here? Like, why did this guy call me? And then at some point he's like, well, what do you think I would send you in for? I was like, well, I'm a rock singer, so Jagged Little Pill, the Alanis Morissette musical, is on right now. I see myself in that. You could send me in for this, that one. I can't remember. I think Dear Evan Hansen was on at the time. Hamilton was on. So whatever shows were on Broadway, I was like naming which ones I felt like I could be a part of. And then I pause and I go, I guess also you could send me for Aladdin since I'm Middle Eastern, like whatever.
Yeah.
And he laughs and he goes, Aladdin? And he looks me up and down and goes, well, I don't know how to tell you that, honey, but you're not exactly harem material. And me, I'm like, and I go, do you mean that as an insult or as a compliment? Because you basically told me I'm like not prostitute material. Like, are you trying to say I'm not hot, or are you trying to say I don't look? Like, what's your?
Is this agent like? How does they? Wait, I mean, are they like Middle Eastern?
No, I don't think I
They
know
just randomly said that they know.
Like a white guy,
crazy.
Caucasian agent. Who had a lot of power, you know.
Wild.
And I it was the funniest thing for me. I started writing it down on my notebook under the table.
Yeah.
So because I knew I wouldn't believe myself if I told myself he said that to me. I was like, I couldn't believe like a real. This goes along with like people asking me like if I know anyone in Al Qaeda or like do I ride a camel to school? Like I was like, whoa, this is like up there for me. And so it inspired. The show is sort of like an umbrella of, you know, what are like these like monolithic stereotypes for Middle Eastern characters that are very popular. Because what I asked him after that was like, well, if you don't like me, I mean, like, why did you call me? Like, what is it? And he goes, oh, you speak Arabic. I think you could have a career in episodic television, like Homeland and whatever. Like, you could be the. He just means like the person from a conflict area who's just like running veiled in the back,
so messed
crying,
up.
like which is a lot of the parts that I auditioned for. Like a lot of the parts are just like women in distress who are either off stage or you know, like so.
I feel that,
So I felt like what I got from that message was like either you give us like full like hourglass figure belly dancer, like sexy Middle Eastern, like the tokenization, you know, the fetishization of like this like sexual like Middle Eastern woman that's there to serve a man always, serve a sultan, serve you as an agent, you know, or this completely like distraught, like helpless mother who's just like lost a son to war or a husband or something, and then also doesn't have any story of her own or any agency. Like I do a lot of just like auditioning for those two things, and so the show is like a reflection on parts that I've stepped in for, you know, instances I've had with people in the industry, and just using that as a point of departure of like, well, what is my show about? Who am I really, like, and what am I made of? And I think everything we've talked about in this interview, like these people that have done, like everything that they've done has made it possible for me to be here pursuing my dream. And to me, like this is a tribute for all of those people, and they've all influenced me in so many deep ways that I'm pretty sure, like talking and singing the material in this show, which is both going to be like covers and some originals. I'm just, it's a reflection of like me not really feeling like I fit into a lot of these molds or like expectations of Middle Eastern characters, and but it's also very personal. It's about grief. It's about like finding your voice in art despite everything that you've gone through, and yeah.
Sweet. Thank you.
Of course.
So that's one of the shows.
That's one of the shows. The other one is called Radio Beirut, and it's set in a Beirut bar in 2012. It's the main story is a lesbian love romance story, which we don't get a lot of. I feel like, and set in a bar with an open mic run by one of them. The other character is a first generation Lebanese American who's moved to Beirut to try and like find herself and reconnect with her late father. Got it. Retrace the family that was there, and and then their worlds coming together, and sort of like the safe haven and that they've created in this bar. That's sort of like a vessel for all these characters and Beirutis that are expressing what they're going through on that stage. Just kind of like cool. Yeah.
How did you figure all this out? Like, were there websites? You just Googled it and just like kind of just looked into all the stuff pretty much?
Yeah, well, first I would say I used to come to watch Broadway shows here. Yeah. Then I started finding workshops and master classes here, because I figured before I commit to a really long program, I'm going to do a short thing, see if I even have what it takes. Yeah. Then when I was positively received in those, I was like, okay, let me start to train more. Yeah. Started lessons, and then when I felt like I got good enough, I skipped a bunch of years where I was like, this is the year I'm applying. I didn't feel good enough. Yeah. And then eventually I just, found them over Google, found all the schools. Some master's programs are just like educational and some are for performance. So I found the right one and applied to a bunch, got into a couple, interviewed with them, visited, and then picked the one. Yeah.
And do you have an agent?
Not yet. So remember I told you there were 3 agents that were interested? Well, the first one was that guy, not signing with him. Wow. Another one was interested and ready to sign, and one said, call us back when you have a green card. Yeah. So I'm just waiting until my green card comes. Got it. Because I think that's going to...
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, that would like launch you. But I mean, so far without a green card, you're doing great.
Thank you.
I mean, from my perspective, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm
a lot of people have to go home.
Legal to work here, but some agents have only invest in long-term talent, and I'm like,
I mean, that's fair. I mean, you're like, talent is like, how to say, but that is, I guess that's true. That's a lot of work on their part, I guess, if you had to leave, you know? And they probably had a bunch of people do that.
Yeah, but the thing that they don't get is that them signing you on is literally the thing that will activate your visa to stay. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And they're like, no, but you don't have a visa. I'm like, but if you sign, you will activate the visa. So there's a lot of...
So that's just them being...
That's just them actually having responsibility to support immigrant artists and then not doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's too complicated for them to understand. They don't want to invest and then have someone... But then they want to do a show like Kite Runner and they want it to be authentically cast.
Yeah.
But then it's equity only.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so I don't think they really understand like what they mean by like wanting to tell a real story and bring in real people and whatever. But then you tell someone who's like, for instance, me, I don't have a single equity point.
Yeah.
Not because of I'm not good enough to have been in equity productions, but none of my visas so far allowed me to work off campus.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I was a student, so I couldn't get equity points, and then the pandemic happened. So, whatever.
Yeah.
There's just like, you can't tell someone, I want to tell your authentic story, or like I want to tell a refugee story, and then be like, yeah, but we're only casting equity actors. Well, it's like if you have refugees in the country who literally experienced that, who are talented and can tell that story, you're really not going to hire them because you don't want to get into how difficult it is to work out paperwork. And sometimes the paperwork is completely fine and legal and legit to work, but they just know the word green card and they're like, sorry, we can only work with you if you have a green card. We can only work with you if you're equity.
So
I think that's just a way that's like, they don't understand that they're gatekeeping. And then they end up like hiring very talented, like first generation, whatever the ethnicity or the identity is. And that's authentic too. But there's a lot of difference in life experience, in privilege, and all of that. And so it makes me question a little bit, like if the industry could be playing a more vital role in supporting immigrant artists.
Yeah, I know. Hollywood, damn you.
Come on.
How dare you?